Hello friends. Today I'm going to talk about a 2013 thriller called Escape Plan. Federal Correctional Institution, Bendwater, Colorado. One of the prisoners burns the pages of the Bible, and then draws soot on the wall. At this time, he is warned about an impending attack on him. And when it happens, the man manages to fight back. But he is sent to a penal isolation unit. As he walks through the corridors, he carefully watches the guards and notes every detail: the guards' cigarettes, the combination lock on the doors, and the time of his smoke breaks. Returning to the cell, he prepares a sticky mass of toilet paper and carefully examines a milk carton, and then asks the guard about the time. He is surprised, but calls the exact hour, and then calls his partner for a smoke break. The prisoner counts the seconds of his absence. At this time, a car explodes in the parking lot in front of the prison. The commotion begins. Judging by the video cameras, all the prisoners are in place. But upon entering the cell, the guard does not find his ward there. Firefighters extinguish a burning car. One of them gets into the approaching car, takes off his suit. A firefighter turns out to be an escaped prisoner. The people in the car greet him, and then they drop you off at a roadside phone. The police immediately notice a man in an orange jumpsuit. Reports of this are spreading to the surrounding areas and many police cars are approaching the booth. But the fugitive is completely calm and dutifully raises his hands. Ray Breslin, co-owner of an independent security company run by his partner Lester Clark, is introduced to the prison warden. The Federal Bureau of Prisons hired him to inspect correctional facilities across the country. Over the past 7 years, he has visited almost all maximum security prisons. Ray managed to escape from 14 maximum security prisons, and I wrote a book about it. And now he's telling me how this prison got screwed up. To escape, 3 things are necessary: to know the building plan, to study the guard's routine, and to have help from outside or inside. The weak spot here is the punishment cell. It is super modern, but it is located with an unprotected fire punishment cell. You had to make enemies. The facility was understaffed, and instead of 2 guards, he was accompanied by 1. While Ray was in the cell, the guard left to smoke for 7 minutes. All that remained was to organize a diversion at this time. How do I find out the code? The milk carton contains a thin layer of laminated film. It's only a matter of seconds to remove it and attach it to the combination lock. The prints will show which buttons were pressed. While getting lunch, Ray locked the transmission door and got to the combination lock. After rewinding the video at the security post, he covered his tracks, and he still had a minute to get to the garage. So the firemen took him out of prison. The caretaker had only one question left: which one? Would a normal person voluntarily go to jail? Los Angeles, California, a CIA employee, Jessica, applies to Breslin's company. Mayor, who offers Ray to test an illegal commercial secret prison tomb for especially dangerous criminals. The difficulty is that this institution is privately funded, so no one will know Breslin's location. To Ray's colleagues, Abigail is growing up and Hash doesn't like it, but the lovable Breslin agrees to this proposal. The man should be picked up in 24 hours. From the specified location, New Orleans, Louisiana, Ray is being prepared for deployment. Now he's the Spanish terrorist Anthony Porthos. He is given an evacuation code, which should be reported to the warden if something goes wrong. And they implant a tracker under the skin of the hand. Ray calmly goes outside, but he is knocked out with a stun gun and thrown into a minibus. Masked men discover the beacon, cut it out and destroy it. And Ray is injected with some kind of drug. He sees everything that follows as if in delirium: a helicopter, a fight, and a guy who gets thrown out on the fly. The man in the cell wakes up with glass walls. There are similar cameras around, with lots of people in them. Breslin is shocked by the scale and strangeness of the prison. Warden Willard Hobbs watches over the new arrivals. When meeting Ray, he refutes all the details. There is no other boss here, and no evacuation code is in effect. Breslin's colleagues are trying to find him, but there are no traces. Ray studies the mores of prisons, and they are very tough. Guards wear masks and mercilessly beat prisoners for any offense. Any of the authorities decides to probe the new guy, but stands up for him. Emil Rottmeyer, who says that he was once the bodyguard of the world-class bank fraudster Victor Mannheim, who likes to take money from the rich and give it to the poor. He is friendly to Ray and offers his help, if necessary. On the table, Hobbs has a book by Ray Breslin about the safety of correctional institutions. Ray asks Emil to help him get into the local punishment cell. They fake a fight between themselves, after which they are both placed in an isolation cell, a tiny room where prisoners are continuously illuminated by huge and very hot lamps. Ray notices that it is attached to the insulator with steel rivets. Abigail, Ross and Hush demand that Clark find and bring Ray back. He promises to do it under pressure. Breslin is visited by a doctor, and he reminds the man of the oath. Hippocrates. After leaving the punishment cell, Ray asks Rottmeyer to get him a piece of metal, and for this he will get him out of this place. Rottmeyer asks to be interrogated by Hoff and messes with his head. The sadist, who has lost his patience, orders waterboarding. Emil, recovering, manages to remove a large metal rivet from the floor. That's what it takes. Ray tells Emil about the purpose of his stay. Here, he assumes that the prison is built somewhere underground or in a cave. He needs to go to the punishment cell again. There, with a polished piece of metal, he will reflect the light from the lamps, heat up the rivets and be able to penetrate under the floor. They start a fight with Javed and end up in the isolation ward, where Rottmeyer feigns a tantrum, distracting the guards, while Ray removes the rivets and gets into the plumbing, climbing out through it. However, once upstairs, Ray discovers that she is on board a huge ship in the middle of the ocean and, realizing that she will not be able to escape, returns back to the punishment cell. Hobbs contacts Clark, who tells him the prisoner's real name and asks him to make sure Ray stays in prison forever. In addition, major disruptions have begun in the banking sector, which cannot be solved without Mannheim, so the caretaker will have to use all his strength to find out where he is. And for that, we need to put pressure on the Major and Breslin. The guards start beating Ray and won't let him sleep. Emil is trying his best to support his friend. One day, Breslin admits that he used to be a lawyer. The guy he imprisoned promised to take revenge on him. He escaped. He got out of prison and killed Ray's family. Emil understands that he also has a daughter, and urges him not to give up. Get out and take revenge on whoever sent him. Here, Rennie can't find a single blind spot, but nevertheless studies the habits of the guards. Later, he tries to find out from Dr. Kyrie where in the world they are, but he refuses to tell. Then, Ray makes a sextant from improvised materials and glasses, with which you can set the latitude, but for this you need to get outside. At this point, Hobbs decides to isolate Breslin from all the prisoners. He admits that he built his prison based on his book. Ray promises that he will get information about Mannheim from Rottmeyer, after which Hobbs lets him go back. Rottmeyer asks Javed for help, promising to help him escape from prison. He informs Hobbs about the impending escape, and the caretaker in return allows him to hold a prayer in the open air. After going out for night prayers, Javed uses a sextant to set up a charade on which the ship arrives. The water flows counterclockwise. So this is the north. The new prisoner gave the exact date of his arrest. The conclusion is on November 14th. Warm air and rain are above. By all these signs, Ray calculates that the ship is located off the coast of Morocco. Rottmeyer knows a guy in Casablanca who owes him his life, but how to send him a message. Ray finally manages to win over the doctor by telling him who he really is. And the doctor can check this by looking at Breslin's book on Hoff's desk and reminding him of the oath he took. The doctor rereads the oath. Hippocrates and goes to Hoff's office, and then demands to bring Breslin. He is ready to help. Ray gives Hoff a false location, Mannheim, but they understand that this will only distract the caretaker's attention for a day. At night, Hoff notices that Ray is chatting with a neighbor. He uses his book and reads the message about the upcoming uprising in the C block. The doctor sends a message to a Moroccan acquaintance, Rottmeyer, about the place and time of their meeting. Hoff sets up guards in the C block. Javed starts a fight, during which they manage to get hold of a weapon, escape to the back room and turn off all the cameras. Video surveillance. However, Hobbs manages to block the doors, which prevents the fugitives from getting out, and then sends a squad of guards after them, who find the heroes using motion sensors. The fugitives engage in a shootout with the guards, in which Javed is seriously injured. Locked in one of the rooms, Ray turns off the motion sensors. He orders Rottmeyer to climb up, and he goes to the engine room to turn off the power supply system and unlock the doors, but Javed refuses to go. With Emil, he gives him his pistol and goes on deck. Javed opens fire on the pursuers. Hobbs understands. Breslin goes to the engine room and rushes after him. Finding the wounded Javed, Hobbs finishes him off. The head of security finds Breslin. A fight begins between them, but Ray wins. He breaks into the engine room and de-energizes the ship. The helicopter of Rottmeier's friends opens fire on the ship's wheelhouse, and then on the guards. A bullet finds one of the machine gunners, and Rottmeier, who has reached the helicopter, takes his place. At this time, Ray, hiding in the engine room, waits for the compartment to open. It will fill with water and the water discharge system will work. He is thrown into the open ocean, under the bottom of a prison ship. The Rottmeier from the helicopter throws him a rope ladder. Hobbs ran out onto the deck, opens fire on the helicopter. But Emil throws Ray a pistol, and Ray shoots at the fuel tanks located on the forecastle of the ship. An explosion occurs, in which Hobbs is killed. A helicopter lands on the coast of Morocco. A car carrying henchmen drives up to the fugitives who have landed on the shore. Rottmeier, as well as Jessica Meyer. It turns out that she is Emil's daughter, who is not a Rottmeier at all, but the elusive Mannheim. She did everything to get her father out from behind the walls of the tomb. Ray also finds out that his partner Clark was fully aware of what was happening. He was offered the leadership of the tomb network, but only if Ray fails to escape from the floating prison, thus proving that the system is invulnerable. That is why he himself organized Ray's imprisonment in an experimental prison and did everything to ensure that Breslin would never get out of it. Clark tries to escape, but Hush finds him in Miami. Upon waking up, the traitor finds himself in a closed car, which is located in a locked container on a ship in the middle of the ocean. A film that could not have been imagined in the 80s. In order for two Hollywood legends, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, to meet on the same set, they had to pass What Do You Think About This Film?